Hey there, Adrienne Elise here. Welcome to the Gaia Daily for July 20th through 22nd. So, wow, here we have a very powerful day with our second new moon in Cancer. These last few days of the moon going opposing the sun, having opposed Jupiter and Pluto, the moon just having opposed Jupiter and Pluto as they come into an exact opposition with Saturn for this new moon has been intense. Very powerful energies of grief coming up. I feel like the last Cancer new moon that was that solar eclipse was bringing up a lot of planetary grief and collective grief. And this particular new moon seems to be bringing up a lot of personal grief and emotions. We're dealing with Cancer, whereas our ability to receive and connect with nurturing and compassion and the mother, and then Saturn opposite at home. So, the moon is at home in Cancer for this new moon, and then Saturn is at home in Capricorn. And so we are having a very powerful moment around the mother and the father. And so we've got a lot of stuff coming up around what feels like baby shit, like infant stuff. Go ahead and allow yourself to cry like a little baby if you need to. And because it's like this new moon is going to the core place of your woundedness, of the energies of, this, like, just your core basic needs being met in this world. And I can feel that there's this energy of this little baby inside all of us, especially as a supernova soul, a very powerful advanced soul that didn't feel received as the spiritual being that you are when you came into this world in this lifetime and probably other, lifetimes. This feeling of your spiritual needs not being important, it's not okay to have them, and definitely not anywhere near being fulfilled, of being received and recognized and reflected who you are as a spiritual being. And it's kind of a deliberate program for these souls that's happened over lifetimes that is about disconnecting you from that spiritual purpose, from this bigger light of the truth of who you are. And so it's like you kind of have to chalk it up. And it's hard because with this type of astrological configuration, we get really caught into our personal story. And we're being asked on the one hand to go there to those core wounds and recognize that's not who we are. And what if it all just has to do with this feeling of this very aware infant, as a supernova soul. This is why it's really intense, because it's like what I see is these as children, kind of you were aware beyond what most children are aware as an infant, maybe in the womb even. You might have felt this rejection or not being received in the full truth of who you are by people around you. And this is just coming up with this Cancer Capricorn axis, this mother and the father, and then what relationship that put us into, right? It's like not being able to be received in our light. This has happened lifetime after lifetime after lifetime. And I can see this pattern play out for the supernova soul in general. People around, most of the people in your life, in your immediate family and circles, will tolerate you, but they have no ability. I mean, you can't expect, this is maybe where it's like you can't really expect from these people, say your parents or the people around you, like, to give what they don't have to give. They just don't have that consciousness, but we took it personally, right? And so it's really important right now to it's like we got to go into that personal story so we can get out of the personal story, because it was all a trap to keep us from our bigger self. This is such a crazy thing. The supernova souls has so much inside of them, so much energy, so much availability for spirit, for life force, for holding light and spiritual service, and they generally feel like a piece of garbage, like the world has treated them, rejected them again and again. And so this is what's on the table right now. And there's actually, it's like so intense to go to these places of that infant that didn't get what it needed, and the feelings of spiritual abandonment. Now, this is a big program that we've all gotten stuck into, and this is the Saturn Capricorn energy coming up around. We've been abandoned by our father, our spiritual father, right? We have to go earn his love back. We have to go find him. We have to go on a quest. We have to prove ourselves. We have to, and it's all a deliberate, very, like deliberate program over lifetimes and eons to keep us from knowing that we are the God self. And so this is why your life has been so hard. It's like you're struggling in this paradigm that doesn't at all fit who you are and what you came here to do and what you've worked on. It's just that feeling of being like going to school for years and years and years, right? And you just dedicated and devoted, and you did your bachelor's and your master's, and you did your PhD, and you got your thesis, and you wrote that book, and then like there's nowhere there's no job for you. And that's what it feels like for these souls. And it's like, that's when you create your own job, right? And a lot of times that is how supernova soul, if you're going to use your skill set, like so many, it's like you have a wider range of abilities, right? But then in order to really use all those abilities in one, you kind of have to create your own career a lot of times, And this is, I guess, what we're talking about here is a really important energy that's going on with Mercury in Cancer in sextile to Uranus and Taurus. A very, very sweet energy. This is going to peak out on the 23rd. So in a few days, but we're feeling it already. So this whole week, we've got this influence, and Mercury in Cancer on its third and final pass. It's coming out of retrograde shadow. That will happen on the 26th. So this is a big shifting week, right? This is that point of no return. And that's the energy because of today, this new moon. It's like, yeah, go be the baby. And maybe you've been like being that, having to go to that deep, rejected infant self, because it's like, this is that the programming. It's like, as long as there's those programs that you are not wanted, that the earth doesn't want you, you have no value here, you don't fit in, you'll never have connection, all these things that have gone along with being an advanced soul. Those programs are specifically designed to keep you attached to the lower personality constructs. And those lower personality constructs will not leave room for your bigger star self to land, right? So that's why we've been going through it. That's what this time, it's kind of coming into clarity a little bit, that this time that we're in, astrologically, in this whole retrograde nightmare energy, is about revealing these lower personality constructs. These programs can be really helpful if you find yourself going back into a loop of these early baby issues, spiritual baby and human baby issues, is when you go, oh, that's a program. It's that same thought, that same destructive thought is a program. And it's time to rewrite the story, like seriously. And so we're at this place of a point of no return. And because the energy is shifting massive, it's like, yeah, we've been in the end degrees of Cancer across from Jupiter and Pluto and Saturn, and Cancer just so sensitive and so emotional. And so like all of our deepest vulnerabilities coming up, but on Wednesday, the sun moves into Leo. And so it's like, that's this energy of like, okay, go be the baby, cry like a little baby, and then step over into the light, right? Because what's being shown to us right now is like the Capricorn energy is limitation, right? Karma, contracts, laws, rules. So it's like every lifetime that you have been persecuted, it's all of the authority contracts, but it's also like because a lot of times if you've had this type of situation, as most supernova souls just did in general, where the people around you continually invalidate your spiritual essence. That is because those people have been invested in this bigger program over lifetimes in affinity with the authority contracts to kind of be your keepers, be your handlers. Make sure you don't ever come into that light and to that power. And wow, it's like we're just pushing the ceiling right now. We're pushing the edge. It's awesome to see, but it's also like excruciatingly painful at times. But it's helpful to know what's going on, because as you go to the edge of the amount of light that you are taking in and being present in your bigger self, that's where the programs come up. That's where the contracts come up. And it's like everything just pulling you back down, everything. But see, the purpose of that, the gift of it is like, oh, there's that program, there's that chain, there's that rope, there's that contract. It's becoming more and more clear, right? And so, at first, you'll get pulled back. You'll establish your light a little bit more. You'll get pulled back into the lower matrix, but that is showing you exactly the programs and the contracts that have been holding you back, because all of this has, like I was talking about, your family contracts could have an affinity with the authority contracts that have been targeting you for lifetimes. Being like, we don't want your light here. Your light is a threat to everything we're trying to accomplish by enslaving humanity. And we're just at the edge of that, right? Like it's like a few more people pop over and it's game over for the lower matrix, but that means that if you're out there on the edge, it's a dangerous place to be, it's like a storm could whip up out of nowhere and like fly you off of the cliff, down to a tumultuous death is what it feels like. It's like so scary, because one of the pretty much, it seems like the last program that gets triggered is that if you go any further in your awakening process, you'll be completely alone. You'll be disconnected. And this is a big thing that's trying to play out in our world right now in this current situation, that if you don't conform, you'll be cut out of society, right? If you don't believe what we believe, if you don't put your mask on, if you don't play along with the rules, where this is a test of who is going to be submissive. And of course, we've been all forced to be submissive. And when you know the deeper underlying insidious, nasty truths of this submission to dark energies, it makes you really sick to your stomach. And then you have to, in order to get along in this world, you have to go out and pretend that you agree with all of this. And it's just like, it's right in our face. It's like a slap in the face for anybody who has any level of consciousness as far as being able to think through things and check facts. I know it seems like a pretty basic skill, but apparently the world is losing this skill because of all this programming. You have to understand that this is all happening because of like a literally mind control type system programming. Right. And the reason why it's been so difficult for you and why you're even here watching this video is because you are not susceptible. You're not as susceptible to these programs. That's why you have more insidious lifetime after lifetime programs. Right. But the fact that shit's so weird for you right now is actually like, that means you've succeeded over lifetimes to get to this point. And know that as you go to the edge, these messages of you have to go live alone in the woods, and then you can think what you want to think and believe what you want to think, and good luck surviving, this whole, like, you can't go to the grocery store without a mask on. It's going to this core level energy of survival, right? And how we've been set up to be so dependent in our society on the grocery store, and it's just like, we own you. We own your soul. You put that mask on, we own your soul. You are now submissive to these dark forces. But understand that if you see this, you already won, right? but know that as you're out there on the edge pushing the envelope of the vibration, you will get reactions from the people around you. You will feel like you're being ostracized. All these things have been playing out again, right? Of being like, oh, these are the message. You're going to be all alone. You don't fit into this world. You don't belong here. You should just leave. We don't want you on the earth, and this is like the last hurrah of that big garbage. And just know that that's kind of what seems to be at the edge. And of course, you pull back, right? Because you're like, well, I don't want to be alone. And there's this deep and the messed up thing about it is that supernova souls in general have felt spiritually alone for lifetimes, right? So many blocks to finding each other. And the deal where we're at right now is that the next step in our evolution, in our awakening, in our project that we're working on together that we didn't even know, is to work together. And there's so much energy working against it, and that's the deal with like the energy with the supernova soul tribe and energy in these of how because in order to make room for that actual spiritual community, and when I say it, I can feel in the group, they're like, you guys are like, that's not possible. Even though you're here, there's evidence, right? Like, yes, we're all spread out, we're all isolated, but it's like this spiritual community and coming back and living spiritual truth in community. This is, and of course, that's going to be cyber at first. It's going to be energetic. It's on the astral plane. And then more and more finding each other in actual real life, in actual real person. But when I even say that, I can feel these soul groups being like, no, it's not even possible. I know. It's like an argument, right? This new moon is like, stop the argument, step over, be in that energy of that sun, so the moon, it's kind of cool, really, because it's like this intense blooming of this Cancer new moon of the whole last 3 months of astrology, right? 3.5 months. Then there's on Tuesday, tomorrow, the moon moves over into Leo. And on Wednesday, the sun moves into Leo. And, so it's like, bam, bam, step into the light, step into the light of who you are. Leo is about expression. It's about, but what the whole program is saying, that if you express your truth, if you live your truth, if you shine your light, you can't be a part of society. Like this whole tribal energy is coming up of all the past lives where you had to conform in order to survive. And it's going to this core place of being unsupported, unrecognized, unvalued, devalued, met with disgust and rejection for the light that you are, And I mean, it can bring tears to your eyes when to kind of tap into this energy of these souls, like working so hard, like so dedicated, so devoted for lifetime after lifetime, and what you had to go through. And then feeling like, not only is it not received, it's not acceptable. And it's something that needs to be persecuted, But then again, it's like, oh, well, if you step back in the bigger picture, then okay, you've succeeded. You're doing it right. This is evidence that you've done it. You never gave away. See, what's happening right now is the submission is that people are giving away their soul. And if you can't do that, you won. You won. And it's not about the masses right now awakening, although that is what's happening. That's what's trying to happen. But it's about those of us out there on the cutting edge pushing the envelope of this vibration and being like, okay, you got your lower story. Okay, humans want to be, they're fine with the mind control and the tribal consciousness, and that's fine. But you guys are not. And maybe this is where we need to be. The step into the light energy is like, how about we celebrate? How about we start celebrating right here, right now, moment to moment, that we made it this far? The fact that we can say, hey, I am not a sheeple. You made it. You made it out of the trap of this whole nightmare. And like, let's start celebrating, really connecting, because when I sense this deep and profound, painful desire for spiritual connection, and yet it's been so elusive for lifetimes, it hasn't been safe. It means like it's endangering each other. It makes you targeted. It's, all of these stories. It's going to hurt the earth if you come together. It's too powerful. There's so much programming, and we've got to stop the argument and be like, oh no, this is the next step of our bigger project we're working on. It's time to actually come together, open our hearts, and the first step is to know it's possible, that for spiritual community, and this is like, it's funny, as a homeopath, when I was practicing homeopath, I found the most difficult thing, because of the energies of this world and all the forces working against alternative and true health. It was like the hardest part was just convincing people, my clients, and the initial thing, that it was possible to heal. And so it's like, if you can't embrace the possibility of healing, then how can the miracle medicine work? And if you can't embrace the possibility and the determination and the knowing that you're here to work together in spiritual community, it's like, and the fact that you are not masked means you made it through. And it's going to be more and more important, it seems like, for these souls to open up to this possibility of spiritual community and working together. You did not come here alone. You came here with a soul group, and you've been working on this project, this whole earth evolution, and so it's like that deep infant, that wounded infant, does not believe that they have any support in this world. And the message, the program that's coming up is like, yeah, you should probably just leave the earth, yeah, you don't even belong here. This isn't a place for you. And it's like, heck yeah. It's like, you are needed, wanted, and just profound appreciation. There's definitely been this coming up. I get these waves of like, from the masters, angelic realms, of like, just so maybe it's like this celebration, connecting to those energies too, that cannot interfere with our life, but they can support when we ask and receive, and being like, start celebrating that we made it this far. On some level, the scale has already tipped. The lower matrix is already dismantling. And so here we are. Let's step into the light. Let's be the truth of who we are. Let's come together, So it's getting to the point where there's a lot of souls that have been working on their energy so much. And then it's weird, because it feels like if you come and share energy with another powerful soul, that's, there's so much programming around that being dangerous, or, something that's not good for the planet or whatever, from Atlantean time. But we're getting to the point where, if we're going to continue holding the amount of light we've got to work together, and it's exciting. It's an exciting stage of the journey, and it's time to go to that point of no return. Use this time right now to identify those contracts, chains. It's like, everywhere you've given your power away. It's interesting, this Saturn and Capricorn energy, it's retrograde, so it's going back, and it's like, we've done a lot of work on the authority energies, but now it's a personal contracts in our family that we didn't realize were associated with the authority contracts, that they were deliberately working subconsciously, because they're more susceptible to the mind programs, mind control, that they're most likely they were deliberately working in alignment with those authority energies to keep you disempowered, disconnected, rejected, alone, helpless, hopeless, and now it's like, oh, I see the program, and I see that I'm not masked, and wow, let's get together, let's celebrate. This is the bigger picture with this lockdown energy that has been shown to me, is we're in such a spiritually activating time, and they saved this card the controllers, they saved this lockdown pandemic card for this point when the spiritual activation energies got to a certain point. And it's really about preventing us from celebration, from coming together, from joy, from the flow of energy. A lot of I've seen is that like there was a lot of soulmates, soul group members, but also intimate partners about to meet before this whole thing happened. People about to go to the location that's been calling to them. There was about to be this big changes, right? And it's like lockdown. Everybody stay where you're at. Don't have any fun, don't connect, don't go and like have us be around each other in spiritual connection. And that means that's exactly what we need to be doing, right? We need to celebrate and claim the joy that is our birthright. And we can see what's been cracking through, So you go deep into the painful infant persecuted soul. And then it's like, but maybe that's the message for us today. It's like the fact that you are so troubled by what's going on in the world and you see so clearly and you're awake and you're not masked and you see the dynamic, you already won. And it's time to celebrate and come together. It means that the worst of the worst that they could come up with to keep you from your spiritual truth is failing. And it's been so intense for you because you're at the very edge when the demons come out of the woodwork and pull you back, And all of that heavy waves of darkness is actually evidence that you've succeeded and that you're right there. And together we can do it. So I hope you'll consider joining me just coming up here in about 40 minutes. The live activation for the Cancer new moon it works out for this time to do this activation right when the actual time of the new moon. I think it's very potent for this moment of stepping through and out of those programs that we've invested our personality into and being like, oh, those are programs, I'm not playing anymore, and come together and connect. Now, if you can't make it live, if you miss it live, just know that we are encoding the energy vibration into the event, and you can go back and get that energy, get your questions answered, be a part of it, even on the replay. So thank you so much for being here, being together, being brave to be at the cutting edge of this amazing experience here together. And it'll be great. It'll be fun to see how this all comes together as we move into the light together. Nothing can stop this spiritual awakening, and all assets have been employed. And you already made it. And you'll still go down to the darkest places, but you'll know, oh, this is the program. And more it'll be like showing you who you're not, rather than, oh, I'm the wounded infant, showing you what you are, by showing you what you're not in those lower personality constructs. So hang in there and let's stay connected. I look forward to seeing you at the live activation or the next update on Wednesday. Until then, I'm Adrienne Elise. Namaste.